I'll let any of the members answer.
Two things, Representative Kessler. One, we just did, as you know, in the budget, a piece to address accountability in the voucher schools, where many of the things that you said don't exist were put into law to exist. And second, in this legislation, I wouldn't say that there wasn't an attempt to do that, but as you know, some individuals are adamantly against doing anything that involves the voucher program, and so some people were not receptive to that. But lastly, I would say that there is a, I can't think of the exact word, but I want to say committee, but not really, where the mayor would be able to pull all individuals who are, I'm sorry, I can't think of the exact language right now, but that are involved or interested in education, so charters as well as vouchers arguably would be able to sit and come to that convening group that the mayor would do, so that the effort to begin to do some of those things in one collective conversation regarding charters, regarding partnerships, regarding vouchers, and regarding public would be able to happen. That is in SB 405, sir.
Thank you.
Final follow-up on that?
Excuse me. One follow-up. Yes.
But it isn't in, we don't do anything that gives us jurisdiction over the voucher schools. Is that correct?
The committee that I just spoke of
has no power to enforce rules and make rules for voucher schools.
It would be an advisory group with the mayor. But we did do, as I mentioned, accountability in the budget.
I have a question from Senator Joe.
Yeah, this is, again, to Mike Morgan, or maybe this Secretary Morgan. Secretary Morgan, let's get back to how Wisconsin is going to be evaluated. I do notice of urgency. There's certainly an urgency to address the issue of failure. No one could accept the levels of failure. The second reason there would be urgency, it seems to me, to enact something is that the school board is currently in the process of selecting a superintendent, which would undermine the entire process. But I'm looking back at how the federal government is going to evaluate our application and determine whether or not Wisconsin is truly serious, or whether we are trying to paint a complete picture and gloss over the issue. This is the information from the Federal Register in terms of the race to the top. The purpose is to encourage and reward states that are creating the condition for education innovation and reform, achieving significant improvement in student outcomes, including making substantial gains in student achievement, closing achievement gaps, improving high school graduation rates, and ensuring student preparation for success, increasing teacher and principal effectiveness in achieving equity, turning around our lowest achieving schools, and intervening, adopting a new governance structure which may include, but not is limited to, requiring the school to report to a new turnaround office. In other words, making substantial changes, not putting up pretty wallpaper and pretending we are doing something. So could you perhaps go back and restate, based upon your conversations with the Secretary of Education, who clearly is championing major reform in our urban education system, and your discussions with those in the Department of Education to demonstrate why they are looking at us very carefully to do something in the immediate future and not just wait?
Well, Senator, I think you kind of answered your own question. It's very clear. It's not just about Secretary Arne Duncan, who's made it clear that he believes that it's not just important to have a good plan, but have a plan that can be executed and that can be driven by structure to get good outcomes. This is coming from the President of the United States. He made it very, very clear when he was here that it's not enough to have a pretty plan, nice words on a piece of paper. What we have to demonstrate to the President and to the Secretary is that we have structure in place to get the outcomes. To get the very outcomes that they enumerate in the Federal Register when they made this announcement. To improve student performance in math and reading, to lessen the gap between white kids and minority kids in terms of achievement. All those things are in play. All the areas that we struggle with here in the state of Wisconsin, that we've seen a slide on the current structure here in the city of Milwaukee are the very things that they're asking us to do better with. So they're asking us, demonstrate to us that you can put together a good plan, that you can modify your structure in a way to ensure us that you will get better outcomes. We believe that they've given us an answer to that question. The Secretary of Education has looked around the country and he said, I believe that mayoral governance makes sense. You need to put these issues on the backs of the top political leaders in these big cities that operate these huge school systems that are populated by minority students that aren't doing very well, to heighten the visibility of this issue, and also to ensure that there is accountability. And what we've seen over the years, and we've seen it in a number of cities, in New York, we've seen it in Boston, is that these structures work very, very well. New York has seen some great improvements in educational outcomes, and so has Boston. So it seems to me that we have a template that has been put in front of us in terms of what it is that we need to do. Now we need to demonstrate the will necessary to get it done. And just one other thing, Mr. Chairman and Senator Joe. I have played football. I did play football for a very long time. I could never be recalled being hit by a pack. Thank you very much.
You were a bear, weren't you?
That's the point. Senator Hopper also.
Pretty sure it's because you were knocked out.
Before you leave, Senator Hopper also has a question. Just briefly.
As those that know me politically would say, I don't stand up in line with a lot that President Obama has been doing, but when it comes to what he's doing in education, I've been very vocal in saying, kudos to what he's doing and what Secretary Duncan are doing. Ironically, it was Secretary Duncan who was the administrator in Chicago that made those necessary changes, transforming changes in Chicago to actually do something about it. I've heard Secretary Duncan talk about the need to reward great teachers. The mayor mentioned there are great teachers in MPS, and I would agree with that. But Secretary Duncan also talks about the importance of helping teachers that aren't great find new careers. My one concern, and I've shared this with Senator Taylor, is this doesn't allow us to address that at all. And I know that you and I have had conversations, and we're not doing everything that the administration has asked us, specifically that they'd like us to do for Race to the Top dollars, and that I think that we should do. And we, in terms of being able to move unaffected teachers out of classrooms, which we can't wait for those students to be in those classrooms. It doesn't matter whether there's 20 kids or 10 kids. In a classroom that's not have an affected teacher, they're still not getting the proper education. And so then would you agree with that?
Well, I would just say this, and I know we're going on a little bit longer. Senator, we need to look at this Race to the Top application as a whole. What we're talking about here in terms of Milwaukee governance is just one piece of what we hope will be in play when we make this application to the federal government. Other pieces of the application will get at exactly the issue that you're talking about. Teacher training, and also how we introduce teachers into urban school districts like Milwaukee. For a very long time, we've been training teachers about the same, well, the last 100 years, we've been training teachers about the same way. We've always trained. What's important for us to do is to ensure that teachers have all the kinds of training that they need to be successful in urban school districts like Milwaukee. And what we're proposing, what will be proposed, without giving away what's in the application, what we think will be part of the application are provisions that talk about teacher training, that talk about working with teachers to ensure that we raise the likelihood of them being successful. It's a very difficult environment.
One follow-up.
One follow-up.
One follow-up. A lot has been said about we don't have a Milwaukee representation on this board. I know there's been some comments from the back. Let me tell you, I am the only freshman senator in the minority party, and I'm on this committee because I asked to be on this committee, and I'm not at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm holding the bottom of the totem pole in terms of where I can do, and to get on this committee, all I said was I asked to be on it, and that's why I'm on it.
Senator Hanson for the third final question here.
Maybe not a question. I may be from Green Bay, but my daughter teaches in MPS, and she has given me a lot of information on it and the need for doing something different. So that adds a little bit different perspective to me and to this committee that I do have experience somehow with the Martin Public Schools.
Thank you all for your testimony. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Secretary Morgan, Your Honor, Senator Barrett, Senator Taylor.